This is the Seller Process Podcast, where we talk about the best systems, processes, and SOPs for your Amazon business so that you can regain control of your time, build up your team, and scale your e-com empire.
Hello, entrepreneurs. If you ever run out of stock and wish you had a system in place to tell you exactly how much to order and when, so that you could have took advantage of that spike in sale that blew off your inventory once, this episode is for you. Today, we are joined by a special guest who is at the forefront of everything that is happening in the e-commerce inventory scene. And she's going to share with us the system on how to manage our inventory like clockwork, despite seasonality or any temporary change in sales velocity. I'm talking about Chelsea Cohen. She's an Amazon inventory expert and the co-founder of SoStock.com, an inventory management software. She's also an Amazon seller, a speaker, and she regularly consults clients that include several 7- and 8-figure sellers. She has been featured on the 7-Figure Seller Summit, seller events, and the Amazing Summit stage, among others, and today also at the Seller Process Podcast. Welcome, Chelsea. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here. All right, so let's start. So one thing that I was, before we jump into the exact steps about your inventory management systems, I'd like to dive deep a little bit into a concept that really caught my attention in our previous conversation, which was this concept of inventory-minded marketing, right? So, can you tell us a little bit more? What do you mean about inventory-minded marketing?
Inventory-minded marketing is a concept of getting the marketing team and the inventory team in sync and getting them to start working together as a cohesive machine. Marketing tends to not necessarily give information to inventory, so that there are times when the marketing team will market so heavily that they'll stock a product out. And that's the thing that we're trying to avoid. So getting marketing to give information to inventory and inventory to also give information to marketing is what the concept of inventory-minded marketing is all about, to avoid stockouts and to handle overstocks and to improve sell-through within your inventory systems and within your business.
Right. So this is an interesting concept. I'd like to dive a little bit deeper in, because I think not many people are talking about that, and it's actually a real problem. But what do you have to say for our solopreneur friends who don't have any marketing team, or they're doing everything? So how does that fit in that scenario?
So it is very common for solopreneurs to have these challenges. The basis of what needs to happen with solopreneurs is they basically need to have two jobs, or two hats rather. They have the marketing hat and then they have the inventory hat. So they'll do the marketing planning, and then they'll have to do the inventory side of things and plan out and make sure that the marketing that they have planned is going to be okay for the inventory that they have on hand or en route. So that's essentially what you have to do, is just basically realize that you are wearing those two different hats. And so when we say inventory and marketing need to work together, it needs to be that those two positions or hats within your company are being held by you.
Okay. It makes sense, obviously. And so in that case will be easier in a way, because you don't have to communicate anything with another person, but then you have to be organized enough, to make sure that you plan ahead and well, you follow the system. Right. So then going deeper into the steps of this, like how do you suggest people to adjust their inventory management process to account for these marketing activities?
So first and foremost, the inventory team needs to give data to the marketing team, and the marketing team needs to give data to the inventory team, as I mentioned. So the marketing team would put a plan together, and that plan would lay out, which SKUs are going to be marketed, right? Say there's a lightning deal coming up for something, or there's an email campaign that you have going, or you're going to increase PPC and you think it'll increase sales by 10%. All of those things would go into the plan. And then the inventory team would have to take that data and put that into the system of inventory forecasting, so that it's not just past data that they're using, because essentially most people are using just past data to make their inventory orders, but you put the marketing plans in there as well, and that will help you to further project. And then from there, the inventory team needs to give information to the marketing team. The main things that should be given are the inventory team would give a stock out risk report. So that would say, here are the products that could potentially stock out if you don't do something to correct them. That would show the number of days of stock out, what the date of the stock out is projected to be. And then the liquidation report would show, here's some very, very slow sellers that you need to just sell through and get rid of, so that we can recover that money and so that we can increase the amount of inventory we're able to send to Amazon. Then slow sellers report would be similar, only those are products where the marketing team needs to be more aggressive at marketing them so that they move out of the slow sellers category and into something more viable, so they don't become liquidation products. And then lastly, the overstock report would be, here's some products we have excess inventory. You can do, the marketing team can do a lot more with the products you have excess inventory, help to improve restock limits and the IPI score, and also just recover some of that cash flow by marketing those products more aggressively.
Okay, that's interesting. And I think for many people, this might be new things. You're suggesting to have 4 reports in this case. One is for stock out risk, and then one for liquidation, one for slow sellers, and one for overstock products. Okay, so for our solopreneurs friends, again, this is something that they need to come up with just by themselves. So then they will have a different approach basically for each type of product. Depends on these 4 categories that we just mentioned, right? So do you have any suggestion on how to create specifically these reports? Is it just through like spreadsheet? Is there any specific way you identify this product?
Yeah, so you can create it in a spreadsheet. It essentially, what you're going to be doing is looking at potentially setting filters. You can either set filters or do a tagging system and basically tag each product in a specific category. The DIY spreadsheet that I have lays out will be able to help you identify those products that are stock out risks. It'll also show you what product, how many days worth of inventory you have. So if you have set a parameter that overstock, for example, is 60 days, or maybe it's 90 days, you'll be able to see how much inventory you have available to be able to isolate that as a qualifying overstock. As far as liquidation and slow sellers, those would be filters or parameters as well. And liquidation would be basically just a low number. So it depends on your business, but let's say anything that sells less than 5 units a day. Maybe for you and your business, that is something that's liquidation. Like if something's that slow and it's really not moving and you don't think you're going to revive it, put it in the liquidation. Then with slow sellers, it would be a range. So above that, maybe 6 sales a day to 20 sales a day. That's kind of the danger zone. That could move into liquidation. So those are specifically earmarked for the marketing team to be more aggressive. Let's get it above that 20 units a day. So it's a range with the slow sellers as opposed to just a single low number for the liquidation.
Okay, that's interesting. Just to have, first of all, like an overview of these 4 categories, so people have a more aware, let's say, process when dealing with inventory, not just taking all products at once. The way they are, they now have a labeling system that allows them to adapt the system based on what type of product it is. So that's an interesting point. I like. And by the way, guys, the spreadsheet that Chelsea just mentioned, the DIY inventory planner, is going to be available for you to download download, you can find the link in the show notes or in the description of the YouTube video, and you can find it at the sellerprocess.com in the website in the show notes, the description. So go download it there, and we will keep talking about this spreadsheet. So you know that we're referring to this, and I really suggest you to take advantage of this download that Chelsea is giving us. So moving on with this process, so I'm interested to understand that even what you mentioned, and people will see in the spreadsheet, the sales velocity. It's something that is at the base of everything, of our decisions, right?
Yeah.
So what is the sales? What do we mean by sales velocity, and how do we accurately find that for every of our product, even using your spreadsheet? Or
Yeah, so it's a very important question because it is the basis of everything. And if you get it wrong, you're multiplying your mistake across however large the order is. The larger the order, the more that mistake is augmented. So the first thing that you have to decide is, you're looking at averages and you're wanting to average it out. And you're wanting to find a daily velocity, right? What is my average daily velocity for a specific time period? So it could be 30 days. It could be 60 days. You're looking at the past 60 days or the past 90 days. Could be a combination of those things. Or it could be that you're looking at a specific period last year and you're trying to find the average of what you did last Christmas so you can, know the average daily sales for this coming Christmas. So that's the first and foremost is figuring out what time period you want. And that's something that is laid out in a spreadsheet. You have the option to choose, these different, time periods or a combination of them. So first you pick your time period, and then you're going to be given basically a chunk of data. And that chunk of data is going to be somewhat accurate so long as you don't have anomalies, right? So then to make it more accurate, we do something what's called daily adjusted velocity. We're never looking at daily velocity. We're always looking at daily adjusted velocity. And adjusted means that it's adjusted for those anomalies. The main anomalies that we have are stockouts and sales spikes that are not going to repeat themselves. So we have within the DIY spreadsheet these calculations that help you to track these things, because Amazon, when they give you the reports, when you download reports from Amazon, they don't give you that granular data. They give it in the API. And so in software, we're able to extract that information from the API. But when you do when you do a spreadsheet using a spreadsheet yourself, you have to start logging those things. So you have to pay attention to, did I stock out, and, what were my sales like, and start recording those things. So you would look at your stockouts, you would look at your partial stockouts. So if you're doing 100 sales a day and the day before stockout, you end up doing, 14 sales, that's going to throw off a 30-day average. It's going to throw off your data. So you want to remove that as well. So stockouts, partial stockouts, and also suspensions. So even if you didn't stock out, but if you had no sales because your listing was suspended, that's going to affect an average as well. So those are the things that you should be keeping track of and recording. And then sales spikes. So if you had sales that are, say, 150% of your average sales, you're used to selling 100 and you end up selling 175 one day. Maybe you had a lightning deal, or maybe you were mentioned on a news show or something like that. And you want to remove that because it will cause your data to be unreasonably high. So you want to take out things that cause your data to be unreasonably low or unreasonably high. And then your averages will be adjusted. So inside of the spreadsheet, your averages are going to be adjusted. So if you had 5 days that had these anomalies, instead of a 30-day average, we would be doing a 25-day average based on all of the days that had good data for us.
Okay, yeah, that's very interesting. So two things I would like to point out from what you just mentioned that I think it's interesting for people to remember is this the concept of adjusted daily velocity. So it's not, you should not consider only the daily velocity, but the adjusted daily velocity, as she said, adjusted for for the outliers. So if there is any anomaly, you have to take that out. Otherwise, it will basically change your numbers. So it will not be good. And another good point I think we can learn from this is that, for example, when you are looking at planning for your inventory in December, you are not usually, maybe what people do is that they look at their past, say, 30 days or 60 days, 90 days sales velocity, and then plan accordingly for December. But that's not what you suggest. Is that you should look at your average sales in December last year, not the past months. So I think
Right.
that makes sense, and it's very useful for people to remember.
Yep. Yeah, it's very important. And then of course you can get into, the other complexities that we have in the spreadsheet, which is, adding trend. If you're, selling 12% more than you did last year, you can add that on top for, the Christmas season. But that gets into a little bit more of the nitty gritty of, fleshing out. The foundation, though, is always getting your sales velocity to be accurate.
Right. Okay, that's right. So that's the main thing, the main concept we need to really tackle well. Sales velocity, understand that number. But once we get that number right, what are the next steps to accurately calculate the amount of stock that we need to order?
Yeah. So you need to know what inventory you have. You obviously can't predict what you're going to need if you don't know how much you have left. So those numbers, putting those numbers into the spreadsheet are extremely important. You have the inventory that's at FBA, you have any inventory that's at your 3PLs, and you have inventory that may be on order. When is that inventory going to arrive? So all of that data goes into the spreadsheet. When everything is going to arrive. What is your burn rate? The burn rate is once you've achieved your sales velocity, you have what inventory you have that sales velocity that dictates your burn rate. But the last piece of that, so basically it's, you've got your inventory on hand, your sales velocity. You have to have your lead times and your transfer times plugged in. And so those are things that are also calculated into the system. How long is it going to take? How can I know when I have to place an order if I don't know how long it's going to take to get to, the final destination? And so those are the three main components. And then we add on top of it inventory-minded marketing, and we put our marketing plans. Because if we plan on for a specific SKU, doing 3 lightning deals and moving, 5,000 units additional to what the sales velocity is telling us, then we need to plan for those additional 5,000 units.
That's right. What's fascinating about this is that you really need to level up your planning skills, I think, because if the lead time it's even increasing recently because of the pandemic, and also logistics time, it's increasing. So in order for you to plan accordingly, and don't stock out, basically you really need to plan months ahead for a lightning deal, maybe, because then it will take you maybe a month for production, a month for logistics for the products to get in the warehouse. So you really you may need to think way ahead before you're going to set up a lightning deal or any other heavy promotion, because then your products are going to arrive 2 months after or more, actually.
Yeah, it definitely has, with the lead times as well as with restock limits. It's become more important than ever to get the inventory piece right. With decent lead times that we used to have, as well as the ability to send in any amount of inventory that we needed to send in, it was a lot easier to get away with kind of being a little bit looser with our inventory planning, because there was a little bit more flexibility with being able to handle, okay, we got to air freight a little bit of inventory, or, we can just send it all from China directly to FBA. But now it's this need to be more accurate.
Yeah, for sure. One thing that I found interesting, I'd like to talk about, is that people will see when they will download this inventory planner, is these 2 tabs called Sales Spike Log and Stock Out Log. This is something also not many people talk about or use, I guess. So what is that? Can you tell us more?
Yeah. So the sales spike log, what that's doing is both of them basically work the same way. And what that's doing is that is recording any time that you had a sales spike or anytime you had a stock out. What SKU is it, and what time period is it? And that becomes important because once you put that information in there, it starts to remove those days. So if you had a stock out for 5 days, it's going to look at, okay, within the averages that you're using, are you using a 2-day average, or are you using, a 30-day average, a 90-day average? Does that stock out fall within that time period that you're using? If it rolls off, then it's going to become irrelevant. It's going to say that, we're disregarding this. But if it is included within one of the time periods that you're using, it's going to adjust within the spreadsheet the number of days that you're averaging, because the data that you're exporting from Amazon isn't very granular. It's not giving you your daily sales. It's giving you for a specific time period. You're pulling out, what's my 90-day sales? And you're plugging in that 90 days worth of sales. So if you don't take those stock out days out of there, then that data, which actually contains not 90 days, but say 85 days of sales, it's going to still use that same amount of sales. It's going to divide it by 90 instead of 85. So plugging in that data in the sales spikes and the stock outs essentially is shortening the number of days that we're using as our average.
Okay, yeah, that's very interesting, and I think this is a pro tip, something that people can use, if they really want to have an advanced way to track their inventory. And also, I can see this being something like something that we can learn from, right? So we learn from our mistakes. If we were right now, for example, I could look at my past year, say sales spikes or stock out days, and learn from that, and maybe act in advance or do something about it. So
yeah, you're able to recognize what are those products that you're continually stocking out on. Maybe you have specific products that you are not tracking the velocity correctly, so you keep stocking out. So even if you're not tracking all of them, some people have very large catalogs. If you're not tracking all of them, maybe tracking your best sellers or those products that you keep stocking out on to recognize those patterns and to be able to get more accurate. So if you don't have the time to do everything, do it for the things that are most valuable.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good suggestion. So before we close, let us know, like, what do you, in your experience, what you have seen to be the most common mistakes people make in inventory management, and what are your suggestions to avoid those?
Yeah, so I would say that the most common mistakes are not getting your daily velocity right. So we've talked about that, and then also, inventory minded marketing. Those are the top two errors that I see. To add to that, I would say that nowadays, not being on top of your lead time and not really understanding the supply chain and the supply chain as it is, and not following up with your suppliers and with your freight forwarders and your 3PL providers enough, like just treating them as order takers. Kind of, we used to be able to, send off an email and say, send me this, and it would happen. But, there are times when in my own business, I've said, gone to place an order early on in 2020, and it usually takes 60 days, and I get back, it's going to take 5 months. So there's a lot of changes. You don't know if maybe some of your products, raw material shortages are happening. There's power curbing in China. There's, cardboard shortages. There's all sorts of things that are happening that you need to get a better understanding. You need to start communicating with your freight forwarders and your suppliers and your 3PLs. The 3PLs, they know the best way to ship things. And it's not always Amazon preferred carriers. So we create these shipments, we create these labels, we pay for the shipping sometimes, and we process that and we send it to them. And they're going to fulfill that order because they're really busy. But they might have a better or a faster way of doing things. And so it becomes more important to communicate with these vendors to really understand, because we have a lot of people who are doing everything that they think is right, but they're just operating on data from 3 months ago, which things are changing so rapidly that data is no longer relevant as long as it has been in the past.
Right. That's a great tip, actually. Yeah, I think everyone should really look into communicate more with our suppliers or forwarders or 3PLs, because they are in the trench of what's happening, like on the day by day. So they know that everything is changing. So you might not be updated enough, to know that there's going to be something happening that it's going to delay
Mhm.
your next order or shipment. So that's a great advice. So guys, as I always repeat, the key to success is to emulate the best. So go check out what Chelsea had for us in the downloads of this episode, the inventory planner and the inventory minded planner also. So you can download those at thesellerprocess.com in the episode show notes or in the description. So learn from what she just shared, implement these tips, and start using this spreadsheet. And if I can give my own opinion, with the experience I've got also in these past few years with my business, I've tried to really use all kinds of spreadsheets, and this one I've seen from Chelsea. It's made awesomely. It's great. It works great, but still there's a lot of work that you need to put in. So actually, what Chelsea is doing, she created a great software that takes out a lot of that work. And why don't you, Chelsea, tell us a little bit more about So Stocked and how people can reach out? Because this is something that I'm using personally, because I've really took out any of the spreadsheet that I used to use, and now I also use So Stocked because it's an easy way to track your inventory and don't make the common mistake that you mentioned.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. So Stocked, I created it to solve my own problem because I needed to get better at inventory. I needed to avoid stocking out. And I looked for solutions and there wasn't anything out there that was really doing it for me. And so I decided, well, if I'm having this problem, everyone else is. And, I started taking surveys and asking, and everyone was going back to spreadsheets, but it was taking forever to get things done. And, we all want to be on the marketing side of things. We have to, handle the operations side of things. But, I basically built this the tool to help to streamline things for myself and for others, and worked very hand in hand with a lot of sellers within the community. We have an amazing feedback loop and are making advancements to the software to accommodate sellers within the community. So Stocked was built to handle, forecasting, tracking your inventory, creating POs, creating work orders, and being able to sync up all of those things that you need sunk up to have an accurate forecast. Oh, and as far as where you can find more about it, sostocked.com, but you can also reach out at sostocked.com/connect. You'll find my socials there. You can reach out via email, and also we have a demo, and I do regular webinars as well on inventory.
Awesome. Thank you, Chelsea. So people can maybe start with downloading the spreadsheet. You just play out, how this work, and then if you like, you will find also the links to So Stocked and everything we spoke about today in the show notes. So thank you again very much, Chelsea. I hope to see you again soon in another episode. Thank you for joining.
Excellent. Thank you for having me.
Hey, entrepreneurs. I hope you enjoyed the episode and learned something from the interview. If you're serious about creating systems for your business, automating processes, and building up your team so that you can transfer the tedious daily tasks in order to focus on more high-level strategic tasks and work on your business and not in your business, I've created a guide for Amazon sellers named Capturing Systems and Creating SOPs that you can find at thesellerprocess.com/systems ebook, where you will learn how to leverage systems and SOPs in your Amazon business so that you can accomplish more by working less, optimize your time, automate and delegate tasks, and reap the benefits of being a true business owner and not simply an operator in your own business. Go download the ebook at thesellerprocess.com/systems ebook and start implementing all the tips and insights that I share with you. And leave us a review or a comment to let us know how the content we are sharing here is making an impact in your business. And have a productive week.